right, well, it is a beautiful sunny day here in Scottsdale, and I am outside the world headquarters of Scottsdale Wood Company. We're going to go on a full factory tour today. You're going to want to set some time aside with being such a large facility. We're going to spend quite a bit of time in there. This baby comes in at 12 by 14 feet. So I think you're going to be impressed with just the sheer scale of the building. Kidding aside, it is actually 12 by 14 feet, but it is really set up as a nice little shop. So I look forward to showing it to you guys. Let's go inside. All right, well, welcome inside. We're going to go ahead and give you the full tour now. Let me flip this camera around and let's start walking around. So here we are. Like I said, it's a small shop, but it is packed fairly full. We'll walk around and do the full tour of everything. But this is what you've got. When I built this shop, I had a very specific look that I wanted. I wanted to look old and not like a finished, like a fine cabinet maker shop. I wanted it to look a little rustic, so went with the corrugated metal up on the roof. I found some really nice old patinaed pieces. Not enough to do the whole ceiling, so I had to patina some myself, but overall, I thought the look came off really nice. Got these vintage barn lights on here, and all tongue and groove around the walls, fully insulated. I do live in Arizona, so had to have air conditioning. So let's walk around and take a tour of the place. So front and center, we can start off with the table saw setup. It is just a contractor saw, DeWalt. I'm not ripping 4x8 sheets of plywood or anything like that. So this suits my needs perfect. It's on a movable bench. Again, such a small shop, everything's got to be movable. So I can get this out of the way if I need it. I've got some tool storage underneath. All these cabinets or all the benches and stuff I built. Again, I'm not a cabinet maker, so these aren't going to look like fine finished cabinetry you'd see in some of the shops. They're very utilitarian in style and look and function, but they do everything I need perfectly. I put this as a extended table in case I ever needed a little more room here, but it does fold out of the way. And I've never actually used it for additional space for cutting wood. So what I think I'm going to do is I have discovered I really would like a router table. So I'm going to convert this to a router table, and then that way when I don't need it, it's down and out of the way. When I do need it, it'll be real convenient to use. So this is kind of the heartbeat of the place, right in the middle here. I've got just enough room to cut through what I need here. And again, if I need to, I can move it side to side or as needed. So that's the DeWalt table saw. We'll go on to the next one. So over here, I've got the Grizzly 14-inch bandsaw. I could have spent more, could have spent less, but I think this suits my needs perfectly. This is probably the tool that gives me the most trouble as far as having enough space. It's on a base as well, so you can tell I quickly run out of room if I'm cutting here. But it's on a mobile base, so I can slide it back if I need to, turn it, depending whatever I'm cutting. So it's a little inconvenient, but again, easily moved. So it is hooked up to dust collection. We're good to go there. Right behind it, I've got the floor drill press. I had a bench top before, and it worked 75% of the time. The other time, I just needed a little more room to get things done. And so a buddy of mine, unfortunately, his father passed away, but he had this drill press that he got from him, and he never used it. So he gave it to me, which I kind of like that. It's a good story. I knew the gentleman that owned it first, and it's still here being productive. So I like that part of it. I've got it set up with its own dust collection as well. We'll go through that later on how I've got all that set up. But that kind of occupies this end of the shop. This is pretty easy to maneuver around. I didn't put this on a mobile base just because it's a drill press. It doesn't really need to be moved around a lot. I'm never doing anything too big on it. So that takes care of this end of the shop. So I've got a couple tools over here. I've got the jet lathe. It's the 1221 model. Obviously there's bigger out there, but this is going to be big enough for me. I wanted to be able to turn things bigger than pens, but I didn't need to do 24-inch bowls or anything like that. So I think this is going to work really well. This is the one tool in the shop that's new, recently added, that I have not used yet, so I'm looking forward to digging in and getting to work on it. Underneath, I've got this drum sander, and I thought this was a pretty cool solution. Being the shop size that it is, I can't have all this stuff out all the time, but I still wanted the drum sander. So I found this table on Amazon, and it goes up and down pretty quickly. Kidding. But it allows me to have a tool that I can shove out of the way, but then when I need it, obviously, I can put it up here where I need it. It can go up higher, but I don't really need to for the sake of this demonstration. But I can put it out here, run whatever I want to run through it. I did put a magnetic dust port on it, so I get over here. When I'm here, I can just connect that to it. I've got full dust collection. It works perfect. And then when I'm done, I can just get this thing, put it down, and get it out of the way. So I'm jealous of these people that have full shops where they can have all their tools out at their fingertips and ready to use at any moment's time. I unfortunately don't have that luxury, but I still wanted the tools. So this was my solution. It's worked out really well. And so I got to take a few extra seconds to set it up, but I can live with that. I can live with that for when I do need to use this. But anyways, that's this side of the shop. I think eventually I'm going to put together a folding bench top over here so I can use that for an assembly area as needed. But I definitely don't want it out all the time. As you see, I need tools and everything over here, but there is going to come a time when I'm doing final assembly that I'm probably going to need a little more space tabletop wise, so this is a perfect spot for it right over here. This little corner of the shop is where I keep the planer. It's a pretty similar concept as the drum sander. I just got to keep it tucked out of the way, fold it down, and I set it up over there where I was just at with the drum sander when I need to. I did do the same magnetic dust port, so that same dust collection hose I used over there, I just snap onto here and it's good to go. And then when I'm done with it, out of the way it goes, and I don't have to mess with it anymore. So again, not always totally convenient, but it allows me to have a planer in a shop this small. Well, you can't have a shop without a miter station, so it's exactly what we've got here. Again, the benches I built just so I can accommodate, a pretty good length of cutting here. I put in a T-track here so I can put stop clamps in, or stop blocks, excuse me, for doing repetitive cuts. It's like everything, all good to go with dust collection. I'll touch on that later on, but it's a pretty good setup. I didn't do a sliding compound miter just because of space, but this satisfies my need most of the time. And then I put just a drawer under here to hold more of the tools, keeps them out of the way, keeps everything nice and neat. Underneath there I've got a scroll saw and a metal cutoff saw and a little air compressor for keeping things clean as needed. So that's this side of the shop. So dust collection. This was the first thing that I put in the shop when it was built. It's such a small area that there's nowhere to hide if you're in here cutting and it gets dusty. I live in Arizona, so I can't just have the doors and windows open in the summertime. I've got to have everything closed up with the AC on. So it was really important to have a good dust collection system. So this is the first thing I put in. It's the Grizzly 1.5 horse model, wall mount model. They claim it's 1250 CFM. I haven't tested that myself, but I will tell you it is incredibly robust and does a great job. I've got a 6-inch hose going to the separator, and then I put the separator, and then it's got the collection bin underneath here. I put it back here because I didn't want to waste any more floor space to have this, because I don't have very much to begin with, so I didn't want to waste a bunch of floor space. And this is a part of this bench that gets very little use. It's just not a convenient area to work. So I cut a hole in the top of the bench, that's secured to there, and then the dust bin's underneath. It's really easy just to move the planer out of the way and empty that dust bin. But I've been really happy with it. So I'll walk you around real quick how it works and where we've got everything going. Okay, so here is the full system in a little more detail. I've got 2 runs coming from here. I've got gates on everything. This is all PowerTech fittings and hoses and gates and all that stuff. So I can shut off either half of the shop at any given time, depending which tools I'm using. So the first one, it goes over and comes out over here, covers this half of the shop. I've got a 4-inch drop down to the lathe. And then if I shut that off, I can open this up, and you saw that. That was the hose I used for my drum sander and the planer. And it continues to go over here. I've got a 2.5-inch drop down to the drill press. You can see I've got a state-of-the-art clamping system, and that really does a great job of keeping any mess. As soon as shavings come off that drill, it goes straight in there. And then it continues on. I've got a 4-inch drop down to the bandsaw. And then finally, I've got a gate at the end where if I ever need to add anything, it's easy just to hook a hose up to that, and I can open that gate up as needed. So that takes care of that side of the shop. Now we'll go over to the other side. All right, so back over here, we've got our second run, covers this side of the shop, and it comes up. We've got a drop that goes down to our miter saw. I've got a 4-inch port, or 4-inch hose, excuse me, that goes to this 6x8-inch duct right there, and then another 2.5-inch hose that goes to the just the regular factory dust collection port. This thing was probably the bane of my existence when I was trying to figure it out. I'm embarrassed to say I probably have 5 different versions of big hoods I put back here. You know, this collects about probably 70% of the dust. It does a pretty good job, but that other 30% was going everywhere. So I tried all these different hoods. None of them worked great. And so then I just bought one of these. This is about 6x12-inch. Kind of catch-all here. And I've got it hooked up to the 4-inch hose. And it does better than all of these fancy hoods that I built. You still get some of the heavier stuff that'll make its way out here. But as far as dust floating around in the shop, I bet you this gets 99% of it between these two things. I guess at the end of the day, you know, keep it simple, stupid. I should have just done that to begin with. Most of my cuts are at 90 degrees, so this doesn't present a problem. If I do need to cut it, I can just move this. It's just attached to there. And for those of you worried about me putting my hand down here and goofing around, we are not plugged in. Safety first. So anyways, I should have just done that to begin with. It works great now. I'm really happy with it. And problem solved, I guess. So for my table saw, I wanted to have dust collection, of course, but I didn't want these big tubes and hoses hanging all over the place all the time when I didn't always need it. So I basically came up with a swing arm, for lack of a better term, that keeps it out of the way when I'm not using it, and then I can easily move it over here when I do need it. So all I do is this is just a little swing arm deal that I made. Unlatch that. It allows me to pull it out and bring it all the way over. I just did the magnetic couplers on this. There's one on the bottom side of the saw with the standard dust port. And then this connects to here. This is just a fitting that I found on Etsy. Some guy 3D prints them. It fits perfect. It's made for this saw. In the past, I've always taken this thing off just because I thought it was annoying. I couldn't see the blade as well. These were always in the way. But after running it with that, I would never do that again. It helps so much in keeping this place clean. I love it. So I use this a lot. And then as a bonus, I made this little piece, threw on the other magnet connector, and I use this, and this serves as kind of my shop vac for cleaning up and getting everything clean at the end of the day. So I end up using this whole piece quite a bit, more than I thought I would. And then when I'm done, I can just grab this, swing it out of the way. That wasn't by design. That just sort of worked out convenient that it hooks over the electrical panel. But then I still latch it just to keep it there. And now it's out of the way, and I've got all the room in the world to work around here. So if you see a better way to do that, or if you have questions on how I did it, please let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. I think that about wraps it up for the dust collection. So hopefully that looked like you learned something from it that maybe is useful to you. And again, if you see something I could do better, let me know. Thanks. So here's a few other little things we made around the shop to make it a little more convenient. This will hold 3 cordless drills. I've got my chargers up there. We've got screwdrivers, drill bits, screwdriver bits. Over on this side, we've got our chisels held up by a magnet, more big drill bits. Got a couple hammers hanging up there. I just put a couple of French cleats in here to handle all this stuff. These are the tools that I'm constantly using. My squares, glue, tape measure, pen, pencil, that kind of thing. So that makes it real convenient that I'm not having to get in and out of drawers to get this stuff. And then on this side, sneak peek, that's one of our first projects. On this side, we've got all of our clamps and everything. I think I'm going to end up needing more storage over there for clamps, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But so that's it. That's some of our little helpful tips. These are all just things that I found online that I basically looked at and said, I think that'll work for me. So I built them real quick, and they've worked out great so far. Thank you. So that wraps us up for the day. Hopefully you saw something in there that you thought was worthwhile. I'm looking forward to showing you some of the projects that come out of this little shop. Again, you can tell I'm not going to be building massive pieces of furniture, but we've got some really good projects lined up. I hope you'll give the page a follow, and that way you see those videos as soon as we release them. We should have another one coming out here shortly within a couple days of a really nice end grain cutting board that we put together for a very specific use. So hopefully you guys will come back and check that out. Have a great one.